So the ECG machine, see what we discussed. First we discussed how the cell is electrically depolarizing and repolarizing, right? So that this will be converted into vector and those vector will be translated into ECG. First part we completed. Now second part is, so the ECG machine, if you see the ECG machine, it works under the principle of galvanometer. ECG machine, if you see the simple, what is galvanometer, you know? Galvanometer is a equipment or small equipment that if you have experienced if there is any electrical problem, circuit problem in your house, electrician will come and he'll check with the wire and see whether the wire current is it's live or not, right? So that's a galvanometer, right? So ECG machine is also a simple galvanometer. Uska principle, the basic principle behind ECG is galvanometer, right? So what are the principles? So we are going to discuss 7 principles of ECG machine, right? ECG machine का जो 7 principles है, which is basic principles of galvanometer, which we are going to discuss, right? So now what we are going to do, we are going to do a small experiment on myocardial cell, right? We are going to take a piece of myocardial cell and we are going to connect this to the galvanometer, right? And check whether what is happening in the myocardial cell. So this is a So this is a cell and this is heart and this is a piece of myocardium I had drawn here, and we are going to check what is happening with the galvanometer, right? First is, so imagine this is the myocardial cell which is at rest. If it is at rest, the cell will have resting membrane potential. That is, it is negatively depolarized. The cell is within, it is negative within, right? And this is the positive side of the cell and this is negative cell. That is, positive electrode is connected here, negative electrode is connected to the other end. So you can imagine it is a side A and this is side B of the myocardial cell, right? So now the cells are completely resting. It is totally negative, right? So the electrode is not picking any current. No current is moving within the cell. So what will happen? The needle will show 0. So there will be no deflection in the needle because there is no current is flowing in the cell, myocardial cell. This is first principle. Whenever when the cell is resting, having resting membrane potential, the needle will not show any deflection. This is first principle, right? Right fast. When there is no electrical activity in cell, make it fast. When there is no electrical activity in the cell, needle will remain neutral. This is first principle. When there is no electrical activity in the cell, the needle will remain neutral, right? So now what you are doing, second experiment. Second is, now what I am doing, this is continuation of the first experiment. Here the cell is what? Cell it is negative internal and this is the electrode you are connecting to the galvanometer. This is positive side, this is negative side, A and B. Listen. So now what you are doing? You are stimulating the cell in the side A, right? So what will happen? Some sodium will trickle into the cell, right? And minus 90 will go to minus 70 When it reaches minus 70, voltage gated channel will open, more and more sodium will enter, and it will become zero. It will become positive. So it will lose the negativity. Cell will lose its negative polarity and it will become positive. Right? First row of the cells will become positive. And through gap junction, second row will become positive. Through gap junction, third row of the cell will become positive. So what is happening? A positive wave is moving towards, right? Sorry, this is negative side and this is positive side. We'll take an example. This is negative side of the negative electrode is connected this side and positive electrode is connected other side. Are you clear what I am saying? Right? So what is happening now? A positive wave, this is positive wave, right? Positive wave is moving towards the positive electrode. Are you clear what I am saying? This is positive electrode, this is positive electrode, this is negative electrode. A wave of depolarization, that is positive wave, is moving towards positive electrode. Deflection will be positive. Deflection will be positive. So this is plus 10, plus 20, plus 30. This is 0. Minus 10, minus 20, minus 30. Are you getting what I am saying? So now the needle will deflect or it will not deflect? It will deflect. Previously it was totally neutral. Totally it is depolarized. All are negative. There is no current is flowing on either side. So the needle will remain neutral. Now positive wave is moving in this direction. This is vector. Vector is drawn and it is moving towards positive electrode. So what will happen? The deflection will be now. The needle will move towards the positive direction. So this is second principle. Write down. When positive charge, in short, fastly go. Second principle, when positive charge move towards positive electrode, when positive charge move towards positive electrode, the needle will deflect positively. The needle will deflect positively. Right? So now next, third experiment. Listen. So now what happened? See. Now all the cells are completely, क्या हुआ? All the cells are completely positive. All the cells are completely depolarized. So what will happen if all the cells are completely depolarized? This wave will disappear. Previously the positive wave is moving. Now all the cells have become depolarized and it is completely positive now. Now there is no current is flowing within the electrode. Again what will happen? The needle will come back to neutral position. Why? Because now it is completely depolarized. Previously completely depolarized. Previously it was completely what? Previously it was completely negative. So no current is flowing. Now it is completely positive, depolarized. Again the needle will come back to zero. This is third principle. Right? Right. When the cell is, third principle, when the cell is resting, when the cell is resting or when the cell is completely depolarized, when the cell is resting or when the cell is completely depolarized, no electrical charges are moving, no electrical charges are moving, and the deflection will be neutral. deflection will be neutral. This is third principle. Now coming to fourth principle. Now what we are doing, we are repeating the same experiment with thick myocardium. Thick. Now the cell, the thickness of the cell is, imagine it is a double, right? So this is again the cell, myocardial cell. But now what happened? I have increased the thickness of the myocardial cell, right? Same experiment I am doing here now, right? What is this side? This is negative. This is positive electrode. This is negative electrode is connected here, right? Now what we discussed, it is completely, first it is resting, the cell is resting, right? When appropriate stimulation is given, what will happen? First cell will depolarize and then second cell will depolarize. But because the cell is thick, right? What will happen? Less sodium will enter or more sodium will enter? Sodium is entering and depolarizing the cell, right? Sodium, when you give the appropriate stimulation, minus 90 it goes to minus 70, right? When it reaches minus 70, more and more sodium will enter, right? And it will become 0, right? This is thin, but here it is thick. So double cell. So instead of, here what will happen? More sodium will enter into the cell because of the thickness, right? So the deflection will be less or more? Here it is 0, right? Plus 10, plus 20. Again, the positive vector is moving towards positive electrode. But now the deflection will be more. Previously deflection was till plus 10. Now the deflection will be more. Same experiment, but now the deflection is more because now the cell is receiving more and more sodium in. So this is, how many principle, Vabi? This is fourth principle, right? Vector is directly proportional to the see, I have drawn large vector now. Vector is directly proportional to strength of the electromagnetic field. Vector is directly proportional to strength of the electromagnetic field. So this type of vector, where you will get? You will get in ventricle. Why? Ventricle is, this is ventricle, right? And upper atrium. Atrial myocardial muscle are thin muscle. Ventricular myocardium are thick muscle. So remember, vector will be greater in the ventricle, right? Because the thickness of the ventricular muscle is more. During depolarization, more sodium will enter into the muscle, right? Myocardium, if it is passing through the ventricle, right? So this is fourth principle. And now coming to fifth principle. So now what we are doing, this is what side? Negative or positive? This is positive electrode is connected here. Negative electrode is connected here. This is A side of the cell and this is B side. and this is myocardial cell, right? And this is initially it is negatively polarized, right? So what we do now, this time we change the side of the experiment. Previously we have stimulated the cell from side A, right? Now we are going to stimulate the cell from B side. When the appropriate stimulation is given in this direction, right? What will happen? The sodium will trickle into the cell, but this side, not that side. So now this cell will become positive, right? And through gap junction, this is gap junction, some sodium will enter and this cell will be depolarized. Actually I am making it positive, but inside the cell you know what is happening. What is happening you know, right? What is happening? When you give appropriate, now we are giving stimulation in this direction, right? What will happen? From minus 90 it will become minus 70. When it touches minus 70, more and more sodium channel will open. So more and more sodium positive channel will enter. So inside already it is minus 70. So minus 70 will become, when positive ions are entering, minus 70 will become 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 and 0 and positive. It will become positive because sodium is entering. So that is how this minus has become plus, right? Got it? Now second cell will become positive. Third cell will become positive. Now what is happening? The positive wave, electromagnetic wave, is moving towards negative electrode. Positive wave is moving towards, positive vector is moving towards negative electrode. Previously, positive vector is moving towards positive electrode. Now positive, because you have changed the direction of the stimulation, positive vector is moving towards negative electrode. Now the deflection will be negative. Deflection will be negative. So this is negative side. This is positive side. What will happen? The needle will deflect in opposite this direction. Right? So write down the fifth principle. When positive vector is moving away from positive electrode, when positive vector is moving away from positive electrode, deflection will be negative. Deflection will be negative. Any doubt? Any doubt? Now, next principle. So I'll again repeat everything till now what we discussed. Right? See. Okay. This is all the 4 principles, 5 principles we will discuss in one sheet. Right? This is what electrode? Positive electrode. This is negative electrode. And previously it is, at the beginning it was, all the cell is resting. All is negative. So first principle, when there is no electrical activity, deflection will be 0 or neutral, right? This is plus 10, this is minus 10, right? So this is first principle, right? When there is no electrical activity, no deflection. First. Second is, when you are stimulating appropriately, what is the meaning of appropriate? You are taking the resting membrane potential to threshold potential. 90 to 70 you are taking. That is called Appropriate stimulation. When you give appropriate stimulation, sodium will enter and this cell will depolarize. Second cell and third cell will depolarize and the positive vector is moving towards positive. Electrode deflection will be positive. That is second principle. Right? And when all the cells are completely depolarized, so from here it went here. When all the cells are completely depolarized, again there is no current or node, it will disappear. Again it will come back to zero. That is third principle. Fourth principle we discussed, when the thickness of the cell is more, right? When the thickness of the cell is more and more sodium will enter, so the deflection will be more, greater. Large, because the vector is directly proportional to the strength of the electromagnetic wave. That is fourth principle. Fifth principle what we discussed, instead of simulating on A side, if you stimulate on B side, what will happen? Positive vector will move in opposite direction. When positive vector is moving away from positive electrode, deflection will be negative. Right? Positive is moving towards positive, deflection is positive. When positive vector is moving away from positive, deflection will be negative. Are you clear till now? Right. Now coming to last principle. So what happens? This is A, B, positive, negative, and so beginning what happened? See, in the myocardial cell, one thing you should remember, the cell which is depolarized last will repolarize first. Already we discussed, right? The cell which is depolarizing last will repolarize first. So this is previously what we discussed, all the cells are negative. Then what happened? This cell, first row cell is depolarized. And then second row cell is depolarized. Next, third row cell is depolarized. So which cell is depolarized last? Third row, right? So this cell will repolarize first. Right? I will explain later why, how. Right? So now what will happen? Now this cell will, what will happen? It will, yes, this cell will repolarize first. What is repolarization? Repolarization means sodium is going out. So the cell is gaining the negativity. Positive हो गया था बीच में. So now when sodium is going out, the cell again will become, when potassium is going out, potassium is going out. When potassium is going out, cell becomes negative, right? So this cell has become first negative. After that, this second row cell will become, this row will become negative, right? This will become negative, and after that, this will become negative. So, what is happening here? The negative wave is moving in this direction, right? Negative wave, previously positive wave was moving in this direction. Now the negative wave is moving in, because first this is negative, second this has become negative, third is this has become negative. So what is happening here? The negative wave is moving in this direction, right? Negative vector is moving towards negative electrode. Again the deflection will be positive, right? Negative vector is moving towards negative electrode. Deflection will be, this is minus 10, this is plus 10. The deflection will be, the deflection will be When the negative is moving towards negative, deflection will be positive. Right? This is last principle. Any doubt? Any doubt? So write down the sixth principle. Sixth principle is when negative wave is moving towards negative electrode, when negative wave is moving towards negative electrode, deflection will be positive. Deflection will be positive. That is sixth principle. And coming to last principle, seventh principle. In the beginning I told there are 7 principles are there, right? So we have completed 6th principle. This is positive side and this is negative side, A and B. See, in some myocardial cells are having they conduct fast electricity. Electric current, it carries fast. Some myocardial cell it carries fast. Which cell? Who can tell? Which type of cell will carry the electric current fast? Purkinje fiber. Some cells are having specialized cell called Purkinje fiber. Purkinje, right? Purkinje fiber. They are the fibers which carries the cell which carries the current fast, right? So what is the difference? Why it conduct fast? There are total 5 to 6 reasons are there why the cell it conducts fast. So I will show the difference first, then we will discuss. Slow and fast. Some cells conduct the current slow, some cell conduct fast. So what are the reason? Right? So it has more gap junction. Gap junction. And this has less gap junction, right? What is more gap junction, less gap junction? See, if you take the cells, right? This is first cell, second cell, third cell, right? The windows, right? It will be more. The gap junction will be more. So what will happen? If the sodium is entering into one cell, more sodium will enter into the other cell. So what will happen? The current it moves fast, right? Second is the cells are arranged perpendicular here. Cells are arranged perpendicular and here the cells are arranged parallel, right? So what does it mean? See, if you take the suppose slow example for slow conducting cell is AV node. AV node is it conducts the cell slowly, right? For example, see if you take this as an AV node, right? And the cells are arranged in this manner, right? This is the arrangement of cell in AV node. If the direction of the current is passing in this direction, right? Cells are arranged in this direction and the current is passing perpendicular, right? So this is the reason why the current is moving slowly in the AV node, right? And the number of third point is number of cells are more. Here number of cells are less. This is one more reason why the current is moving fast here and slow here. How? See, for example, if imagine, so here how many cells are there? Only 3 cells are there, right? And gap junction is also more. So what will happen when the current is entering into the cell? Easily it crosses 3 cells and go to the other side. But if you take here, the cell has to cross so many cells. So it has to cross each and every cell and then it has to come out. Because number of cells are small, number of cells are more and size of the cells are small. So it takes, when the current is hitting here, it will take some time to come out. Right? But here when the current is hitting here, immediately it will come out because cells are large. Resistance is less. Right? So this cells is connecting fast. So these types of cells are called fast conducting cells and these cells are called slow conducting cells. So this type of cells are available in ventricle. Purkinje fiber, you know where it is Purkinje fiber? Purkinje fiber is present in the ventricles, not in the atrium. When you compare atrium and ventricle, ventricle will carry the current very fast, right? Because it is having fast conducting cells. So that is our 7th principle. So what is 7th principle? See, when the cells are, imagine this is ventricular myocardium, right? So this is negative. Initially it was negative. When appropriate stimulation is given, right, current is moving very fast, right? Positive vector is moving towards positive electrode, but this time the current is moving very fast. So deflection will be positive or negative? Positive. Deflection will be positive. And the needle deflection will be slow or fast? Fast. So this needle will move very fast and it will come back. Right? So that is 7th principle. Write it down. Some myocardial tissues are having fast conducting cell and the deflection of the needle will move fast. The deflection of the needle will move fast. So this is last principle.